Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of GBC Live. We've got Miguel Crawford on from the Grasshopper Adventure Series. This is his first appearance on our YouTube channel. We hope to take advantage of all the fun little graphics that can fly by because, one, his courses are so epic that it gives us another shot. And two, the one we're going to talk about mostly today, Ukiah Mendo, the new one to the list, a good portion of it is on private land. So a lot of people are asking themselves, well, how am I ever going to figure out what this looks like ahead of time? So that's what the Google Earth is for. And so we're going to go all through that. And I'm not going to waste time. Let's bring everybody in right now. Howdy, Mig. How's it going?
Hey, super. Thanks for having me. How are you guys?
Doing swell, I'm the only guy without glasses, although I probably should have them. But I think it's both of you, so we'll just run with it.
Right on. How's the biking this time of year in the southern half of California?
Epic. Epic. We have 90-degree Octobers. There's no excuse not to ride. It's ridiculous.
We're thankful for clear skies as of right now. Knock on wood. No big
smoke,
fires, right?
no fires. Yeah. That's not even funny. That's good.
Yeah, we're fall. I mean, fall and spring, my two favorite times. But obviously, like, it can be fire season down here during that, but we're in pretty good shape so far before I guess like we get El Nino. So fingers crossed. But yeah, great time to be out and about here, and we've got to have you down one of these days.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's actually a chance. Late winter, early spring. I've got that on my list to do to come join you guys, and I would love it.
Oh, great. Well, first of all, one thing I want to bring up, and I know this is not why you do it or anyone who really is behind the scenes, but I know that you got inducted to the Gravel Hall of Fame last year. And, I know
that's
that there's
awesome.
It's not like baseball where you compare yourself to the other greats. Like, that is not the ultimate goal of why we do it. But do you have any thoughts to share about it? And I know it was very special that Yuri and Allison also went in too.
Right. Yeah, it was a great honor. It is a great honor, and the nod for I've been so nose to doing what I do, which is the events, and then also teaching. I've been teaching for 27 years and raising kids that, I was just doing it because I love to do it. Now, actually, the truth was, it was my 30-year plan when I first started this in 1998 that eventually there would be this genre called gravel with the World Championships, and I would be in the Hall of Fame. No, it's a real honor to be able to just be doing what I love to do, and that it's evolved into something that now I'm making a living at, and still get to I get to travel and keep creating interesting routes, and to have it with Yuri, who he was out the very first hopper in 1998, and Allie's from here, and it is a little bit funny. I was talking to Yuri about that. 3 of the folks were all from Sonoma County, and you've been up here, Zach. Like in Marin, you've got dirt, but it's kind of mountain biking. We don't really have gravel per se in Sonoma County, but we have some really interesting connections, dirt roads to other things. And to have seen the sport exploded like it has, and so many new riders. There's of course people that have transitioned from mountain or road onto gravel, but a lot of people just got into biking on gravel, and it's given them a chance to get to the outdoors from home, which for me is beautiful. I got into the sport, mountain biking, but also commuting and touring, to not be in a vehicle. So see the evolution of that, and have been a part of it. Yeah, it's cool.
When would you say is the first like real gravel? Like, I got my first gravel bike in 2017, but it was happening a little bit before that. When would you say is the birth of gravel, so to speak?
Well, as a bike, I don't know. Like, I think we've talked some about this before. So when I started the hoppers, I was racing mountain bikes, and I did some cyclocross and some road. But in Northern California, the cross scene in Santa Cruz was always really big. And in NorCal, you know, some in Sacramento area, folks were racing the road and mountain biking. So when I put together the first course of Old Caz, it was to kind of, you know, most people would either be on a hardtail mountain bike, you remember, obviously, or with a suspension and rim brakes, or a cross bike. And I remember the cross guys, they had kind of the perfect bike, but their gearing sucked. You know, they were running one bys for cross, and you didn't really have those capabilities of changing that around too much. And for a long time, the lineup of bikes in Occidental for probably from 98 till 2012 or something, 13, there was a mixture: road bikes with big tires, mountain bikes with slicks, cross bikes. At that time, I had a Salsa, which I'm still on right now, with a triple. I forget what it's called right now. I didn't even have a name on it right now, but I built it up with a triple, and Ultegra had a triple Grupo at the time. But from my recollection, you know, Specialized launched their Diverge at our King Ridge Hopper in 2014. And I think then that's when a lot of people like asked, you know, what the hell is this bike that they're trying to slide in between a road bike and the cyclocross bike at the time. And I think people thought it was nuts. But, you know, I think from what I recall, that was the first big brand to say, hey, we think there's something that slides in between those. You said you got on one in 2017. I think
17 was my first when I got the Niner. And it's funny because I came off of a cross bike. I figured out I really didn't like cross as much as I thought, but I really liked the bike, but not so, like the geometry was a little weird. So when I tried the Niner, it was like, it did everything the cross bike, what I liked about the cross bike, but it felt more stable and better on the fire roads, hence gravel. But I didn't know what I was doing. I remember I had like 70 pounds of pressure in my tires at my first ride out, so I had no traction. I didn't even know they were set up tubeless. Like I didn't know anything about gravel. But that bike took me a long way, and that was my first introduction into gravel. I had mountain bikes and road bikes, just like you said, most people did.
Yeah, and I think we wanted to, you know, what I recall too, you know, Ibis was originally in Sebastopol, where I live, where I'm from, but then they moved to Santa Rosa, and some friends in Santa Rosa, and Don Winkle and a crew who were friends with Scott, had them build a bike they called the Hakalugi, which they had for a while, then the Pinkalugi, and they were getting input from Gavin and Kent and Don, the Chilcotts, and then Don Winkle, and trying to get the geometry, like, hey, we wanted to have the geometry of our road bikes, basically, because, you know, if you're doing long rides, you got your road bike to fit you well. And a cross bike certainly wasn't that, you know, as much steeper and quicker.
Right.
And they had a pretty good match with that bike. But then, of course, the clearance was, I mean, what did we fit tire-wise back then? It wasn't much.
Maybe 40.
Oof, 33.
On a cross bike. Yeah, 33 or 32 or something like Yeah.
So that's been fun, you know, and now, I mean, we can do so much on these, and it's crazy how that's gone. I mean, you see what they're coming with the bikes right now. I mean, get to the point where for me, a lot of my rides right now, right now, mountain bike season up here is phenomenal. So that's what I'm doing almost exclusively. And I'm finding that really long technical descents on my drop bars, though I like how technical and quick and twitchy it is, and the challenge, the position, I find I'd rather be opened up with the flat bars of my mountain bike. So I find myself, you know, riding that more, unless it's primarily just rolling. If there's a bunch of really aggressive descending, I love the challenge of it. But, you know, anyways, back and forth on bikes. Got a couple hanging up over there.
Nice. Wow, nice.
They're good. The old ones. I'm not very good at getting rid of my bikes. The plastic ones I'll sell, but all the old steel ones and stuff from back in the day.
Nice.
Wow. Now, before we get into the series, something a little changed that you posted when we planned this, and I just saw it just the other day. But you added up your Pro Fun Tour.
Yeah.
At the beginning of next month, and I may try and make one of them. I may not tell you yet in front of everyone,
sweet.
But
we'll talk about
I
it.
do want to try and make one of these, because first of all, Old Caz is a lot of fun. I really want to try and make that. I don't know if I can work that one out, but if not, maybe one of the other ones on the calendar. But uh, just briefly tell us a little bit about this, because this is not an event. This is kind of
This is
like
not an event. It's not Grasshopper. In fact, the Grasshopper Adventure Series is the Instagram for the business, and then for me personally, I'm Pro Fun Tour. And I was originally just going to post it there. I thought, no, I'll put it out there, but it's, definitely not an event. It's not organized. There's not support. This is kind of a carrot. We did this last year, just with a small group, and Betsy Walsh was out, and I sent an email. Said, oh, we should do this and invite folks and get 5 days. Kind of along the spirit of just your big group rides in the fall. I think for a lot of folks, it's not go fast time, which is great. So cafes and bakeries and beer afterwards. And I'll do all of them, and I'm not going to promote it. I'm not trying to get people to come to this, but it's out there. I mean, I'm going to do all of these. And then the only information is there on the Ride with GPS, which are the routes. And a couple of them are the old classic hopper routes. The one on Saturday will be out of a trail house, and I think it'll be a little mixed terrain ride that most people, don't see. And then we'll do a fun one in Marin that's got a lot of pavement, but then a lot of dirt. So you definitely want to be on a gravel bike. I wanted to make sure to get one in Marin that's like, nah, you don't leave your mountain bike at home.
no problem for me.
That multiple day, it's kind of like, I don't know, the mega hopper loop I did, which we might do something like that with put that on the calendar as well in the spring. That's where we took like 9 hoppers and combined to do, I think it's 440 miles and 45,000 feet of climbing or something like that. But it was during COVID. Like for me, I'll get so busy. I was talking to you guys beforehand with the property. I mean, I'll work 15 to 20 hours a week, just gardening and building and stuff. Like I gotta go ride. So if I put this carrot out for me that I'm going to go ride 5 days in a row, and I'm not riding super fast right now, but it's kind of like an extension of like, hey, we got that Saturday ride with your buddies. Like I have this goal for me. And so anyways, that's what's up with that. And it is definitely not an event. Everybody's welcome. But I'm not going to give any information about tires or bikes or where there's water, where there isn't water. So look at the map and come or don't
figure
come.
it out.
Yeah.
You're on your own.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, it's a great area where you can audible along
sure.
the way for a lot of those routes. So
yeah, none of them do we take you out in the middle of nowhere and you're gonna hear banjos and you're lost. Well, you don't want to get lost, but
not Deliverance.
They're not complicated. They're not complicated rides, and sometimes I forget where people come from. Some people, it's like the USAL. Like some folks comment on, wow, to see stars at night, and I was like, oh, like people, not everyone sees stars. So I sometimes think that folks are accustomed with getting far out there, and I think most people are, but there's always some folks where it's a little beyond their comfort level or normal way of being. But that's kind of what it's been all about for all these years.
Yeah. I don't see any stars here. It's too much light pollution.
You guys got to we got to plan an NorCal trip. Come on up.
Yeah.
Spend a couple days.
Yeah. Well, let's quickly go over the 2024 series. And I know that we're coming back again, starting off the season with Low Gap. And last year was a little bit of a sea change for the ending. And I think that the toughest part on the previous one was the descent down Low Gap Road was a little bit bumpy. But this new collaboration you have, that was a fantastic descent. It was and it was a little wet, but still I had a lot of fun doing it.
Good. Yeah, less technical. As the courses evolved, when we had 100 people and we were someplace else, like, hey, what's the coolest and what's the hardest, period. And now we have 400 or 500 people, and there's the safety comes into play first, and so there's a couple reasons for that. One is that bridge that's out in the middle with the county, we have to work with MRC to go onto the road and then up. And then finishing down Low Gap, though it's fun, it's an open road, and there's quite a few driveways that come on and off it there. And there was the sprint finish, which everyone loved to see between Jeff Kabush and Pete. But that's like an open paved road going into the city limits. And so the fact that we can finish on a closed road for me is a super win. At that vineyards there, the Dolan family, they're really nice. They're gonna let us finish there, and then people can casually roll back. So yeah, we'll do that again.
And we'll get a little bit more into that since there's a little bit of overlap with the Ukiah Mendo one. But I think that is I really like how that starts off the season for racing. It's about 45 miles, not, the road climb up Ore Springs Road. It's a great way to start the season. It just definitely is a hello. And I've had a blast last couple of years.
Oh, I'm glad.
But the one in February is Huffmaster, and that's the one that we hope to make it out to. And I know last year was a little bit more sloshy than probably you would have wanted. But tell us what's special about this course.
Well, there's a lot of things for a Huffmaster. So it's interesting how that came to be. I think I've told the story where I had wanted to do something in the valley, and then my buddy Jason Horn from DFL, he's always organized these rides out there, and I had a couple of routes here almost exactly like his, and he invited me. I was like, oh, this is meant to be. So we rode it, and then we worked together first to do it as a fundraiser for the Fire Foundation after the big fires up there out of Chico, and then we put it on the Grasshopper calendar. And strangely, it's a small town. So I was born in San Diego, and my dad was, after going to San Diego State, was a teacher, and he wanted to be a principal, and he couldn't get a job down there. So he got a job in Maxwell in Colusa County, a town of 500 people, rice farming town. So I actually lived in that town for about 5 years as a little kid. And so when I go back there, there's, some memories. I was younger, but my dad comes back to help out with the feed zones. And we recently had some of the PTA folks volunteer to help out. And it's like they're, brothers and sisters of kids that my sister played Little League with. She played on the boys' Little League team. And another cool thing about that is that one of the beneficiaries is the Huffmaster family. Lauren Huffmaster started something called the Adventure Therapy Foundation. So we're able to, and that's actually a namesake of the Huffmaster Road that she grew up on. Anyways, those are some of the personal anecdotal stories. But in terms of the biking part of it, to me, it's perfect because I love that there's 25 miles of flat with some complicated flat right-hand corner, 90-degree turns or in the early 10 miles, where you have to be a very competent pack rider, as you would be in the race, to position right, or you're going to be hosed. You're going to pop off the back. And then there's some pavement before the significant climb. So there's this, some people call it boring. And I was talking to one of the racers. Oh, it's so boring till you get this. Like, well, maybe, but if you're you're doing 23 miles an hour on gravel, stuck in beside someone hanging on for dear life, I don't find that boring. So, I think it's really unique in that way. And some of there's climbing on it, but it's not so steep climbing that it's just a pure climber. A lot of the hopper events, there's so much climbing. It's just like, hey, the best climber just wins the day, period, is kind of how it works out. And then that time of year with the snow in the background of the Mendocino National Forest is just spectacular, and the green hills, and oftentimes the rice is popping there. This year we rode it when all the almond trees were in bloom. So you get this Central Valley feel that's pretty unique. And there's just this small range in between the valley and the Mendocino National Forest that we're kind of weaving in and out of that makes it for really, really cool and, interesting course. The element last year with the snow, the snow for the first climb was snow and it was just mud. It was beautiful. But the Huffmaster Road, it turned to what nobody would have anticipated. There were a lot of folks that walked up and then had to walk down Huffmaster. It became this clay quagmire that was comical in the Dante sort of form of comical tragedy. So we hope that doesn't repeat this year. That was a very unique situation. So stay tuned.
I was going to say that doesn't sound fun.
Fun? No, it wasn't. It wasn't like, oh, gee, this is
Quagmire.
fun kind of fun. No, no. You know.
Okay.
Well, last year was a special year. I know a lot of events got moved around because of the exceptional weather, and it's bound to happen, you know. So it's just kind of like we have to deal with the elements, and it's just part of the game, right?
It is 100%, you know, and our number one thing is the safety of it. In fact, we talk about one of the things that makes it special is like, so the fire department there has been big supporters and in helping us with the event and using their property. And it was the night before I realized we hadn't gone up the full descent of Huffmaster, and for me there was a slide area that it can slide on Huffmaster, and about 9 o'clock at night I was like, shit, I didn't get to that one point. So I didn't 100% know that the road was open, and we're about to send like 400 people. So,
oh boy,
I just was like, oh no. So I called the friend from the fire department, and he called someone. And he said, hey, we got a side by side, and they were out there at 7 in. Drove out there with a chainsaw. Just gave me the thumbs up. It was clear. Cleared a couple of things, and so just to have folks in the community that were like that rallied. Yeah, it was. The last year was just unprecedented from event to event to event, between the low gap to that, and then going up to Sherwood, which we know was really, really complicated to get ready. Lake Sonoma, we had to alter the course because of flooding on the lake, and not boring.
No, nerve-wracking.
There wasn't any gray until last year, I
don't think. Wow.
Yeah, but we had a great series though. So.
Well, we'll go quickly into Lake Sonoma. I know that's more mountain biking,
yeah.
And just of note, like that's in April. But do you think that the course will still be the same, or whether these changes you made last year will still kind of stick, like they worked better, or?
They actually did work better, and I got some good feedback on that. Doing 2 loops allows us for people to bail if they want to, allows us to have a time cut, and allows us access to them. The whole southern part that we normally do on Lake Sonoma, it's accessible only by boat. So you've got this like 15-mile super remote bench cut trail that if something happens to someone, it's a boat ride in and a hike out to get to them. And if they get to the halfway point and they're cratered, like there's no short way back. Like there's no shuttle. So this allows us to still have a really cool hard event, get the aid station to places, but also to have the folks on the boat and the EMTs also, get to people. So it's gonna be the same whether it floods or not.
Wow, boat! We got boats on the gravel ride.
Yeah. You have to. The Geyserville Fire Department, since they were doing so many calls out there, they just set up an action plan and they provide support. So they have a boat on the water, then they've got a couple folks on side by side on the course, and trying to do the best you can to provide safety just in case.
I'm all for it.
Well, let's get into the final one of the series, which is the Ukiah Mendo Gravel Epic. It's got 2 different distances, but we're going to kind of be focusing on the larger distance. And we've got our little fly-through map here that we're going to go through. And it's different from the low gap, as there's a different start for this one.
Yeah, there is, and just a plug for the sponsors for this one. So the city of Ukiah has contacted us, and they want to come on as a title sponsor. So they're helping with some of the logistics of the event. Part of it being that we're starting at Todd Grove Park. They have a 6-acre beautiful grassy park right downtown, and they're going to allow people to camp there and park their sprinters. So that's going to be a great ad. And then they're going to help with a rollout. So we'll actually get to roll out, escort through town and not have to stage. We won't have to stage on Ore Springs for low gap. And for this one, if folks look on our website, the map's current, but I know Zach, sorry, we didn't communicate, but this one, they're going to roll out of town and then kind of do a clover leaf underneath the highway onto the Masonite Road. So you go out onto what's Kunzler Ranch Road. And you take a right, and then you go under. You can kind of see those warehouses in the bottom of the screen there. Just past them, you'll go right and around, and then under, and then you head west to where you see your red line. And so then we'll go boom, flag, checkered flag down, boom, you're on the course.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, I remember. Yeah, everyone was a little too stacked there on the road, and I know as much as you keep telling people not to crowd,
Move over,
it
move
just
over.
takes it just
didn't
takes a
work.
couple people just to
Yeah.
to flesh things out. So
Yeah,
this
so
is a
this
nice
would be
move.
fantastic. And then also, in addition to the city, so Mendocino Redwood Company, so they own most of the private timberland that we're riding along. And they have a road they call it's their haul road, and it's a 32-mile road that's in their property that goes from Ukiah at their mill all the way to Flint 128 by Flynn Creek, and so it's accessible only for our event, only on the day of the event. There may be a chance that folks that have waivers signed possibly the weekend before. But it's not something that people can pre-ride, not even the Friday before. So on one hand, you're thinking, oh, I'm kind of bummed not to get to see it, but it's also it's kind of, everyone's on it's the same playing level, and I'll be out there and shoot some video and have some photos for folks to know, so people will be safe. But I think it'll be kind of fun, racing blind, so to speak.
Hey, make one more time on the sprinter parking. How does that work?
We'll have some designated spots there within and around that park where people can park. We'll do the same thing. We have reg at a hotel nearby, but then we'll have restrooms there. And you'll be able to park and spend the night. So that'll be nicer. Some folks have been using either the high school parking lot in the past or the fairgrounds, and those aren't great spots. So the city's like, hey, we can do this better. We'd love to have you guys. So hopefully people can come the night before and go down to the restaurants and have a bite to eat and drink coffee and do everything that we do when we come to the events.
Yeah, cool.
Now kind of like moving on, straight out of there is your first big climb that takes you up. That's mostly dirt, but this is the way we'll be coming down, right?
Both up and down. So we start the race going up the Masonite, which is how we finish Low Gap. But when you get to the top of the first climb, it's where for Low Gap, your last feed zone, you come down, it's all dirt, and then it tees into a paved road for a while. So that's the summit of that climb. So in this event, then you'll come up and over the top of that. I don't know if you can show that in your map or not, but after that first summit, then you descend down, and then it's kind of up and down and up and down after that point.
Wow. Yeah, I know this is a much different profile going in, and I can only think of it's probably going to be kind of cold getting in there, although it's a different time of year than Low Gap.
I think May should be really nice. Yeah.
And the interesting thing was I did a little reading about this Jack's Point up here, that I guess it was someone from the forestry department that had watched this area for like 50 years. Was kind of interesting too. And
speaking of that, if you can find the quote, there was a quote on a stone plaque that then somebody rolled down the hill and it's gone. But I sat there for a couple of times, and it really struck me what it said on there, and I could only paraphrase it, but it basically summed up the importance of having meaningful work. So we always try to think about how much free time and leisure, but really being able to dedicate one's life and their vocation to something that is bigger than oneself and that has meaning is really, that's the most fortunate we can be. And I think, that was his job was looking after that land. And I try and remember that both as a teacher and what I'm doing right now. Sometimes I think, wish I worked less, which sometimes is true, but we'd be thankful for being able to do things that give us fulfillment.
it got you where you are today. That's what I always say. Without that knowledge from before, who knows if we would appreciate it as much now as we would have. So
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Zach. I'm not letting you show the map there. You want to just do a flyby with those guys, and I'll stop interrupting you, and then we'll talk afterwards. You want to go over this?
oh well, no, you can stop at any point to show anything
Okay.
here, because you're definitely more familiar with this with me. But then kind of, I guess, crossing Low Gap, this whole section back over here that I'm pretty unfamiliar about.
Yeah, and so that one, it's difficult. I'm not going to really try and edit the map when it's gravel and when it's paved. Basically, at one point in time, the entire thing was paved, and now it's mostly not paved. And sometimes it's gravel and sometimes it's dirt. It's really just going to be back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for that whole 32 miles. And there's lots of climbing on that. You can get fooled, and if you look at the profile, think, oh, try and break it down into 1 or 2 climbs, but there's a lot back there. And then when it tees finally into Flynn Creek, 128, and then Flynn Creek, that section of pavement, so 128 for like half a mile, where it's blue, and you go right, and you could look at that general grade up that drainage up that. Well, it's not a canyon, but it's a creek watershed, and that goes into the town of Comchi. And they always say all roads lead to Comchi. That's like a three-way intersection that, it's pretty close to Mendocino. And then you take a right and you climb, really nice, relatively gradual climb. And then you hit Low Gap from the other direction than what we do on the actual race of Low Gap. And that's all pavement. It's just beautiful, beautiful tarmac. Yeah, and then we take Low Gap, which, as you know, it's up and down and up and down and up and down. So I don't have my Strava file on this. I think the ride with GPS said, what did it say, Zach? Was it 85? It said, what was the?
Yeah, about that much.
So it's probably more
elevation.
like 92, probably over 9,000 feet over 82 miles. So.
Yeah, and it's, pretty, and I just remember that one point over here. I know, like last year, you had to do a little redirection, kind of that crossing point there at Low Gap to get around. And then, like, I remember both times this last little climb that you just can't wait. And I guess the new version from Low Gap is you would continue on, from what Vic remembers, continue on here from Low Gap back into Ukiah. But now
you'll go left,
that turn that takes us back in. That was a lot of fun.
I think hitting the climb, which is truly Low Gap, that last climb you're describing, that you come into a little saddle there, which is technically called Low Gap. That climb's going to be a killer at the end of the day. You're probably going to hit that at mile 60 or something like that. So I know that's where Stetina last year really gave it, tried to get away from Blevins to making sure that he wouldn't catch him on the descent there. We should mention for folks too that there is a shorter route to get out there as well, and so that's really nice to have two options. So the shorter route starts like everyone else up the Masonite Road to where the trestle crosses over, and then you get on to Low Gap Road and back around. So it's still a pretty stout ride. It's like 42 miles. So that'll be nice, so we can get some of the juniors and other folks who want to take part in this adventure weekend, but not be out there for so long.
For a long time.
Long time, yeah.
How many aid stations are we looking at on the long course?
On the long course, we'll probably have one that will repeat twice and then another one out. So we'll have 3 for that one. Yeah. We haven't nailed those down yet, but.
Yeah, I know for Low Gap, like last time I actually did go through without using an aid station because it was definitely cooler. But I know this is a different time of the year. And that's actually a good question to ask because, like, I know, when you're in Sonoma or Mendocino, you're by the coast, it can be like a 15, 20 degree difference. But I haven't ridden this area this time of the year. Is it kind of
Oh, it should
like
be.
that
It should
dry
be.
heat, or is it just
In
kind of
May
like
should just be beautiful. I mean, maybe you're getting into the high 70s and everything's going to be green and tacky. May should just be phenomenal. We don't. I mean, if it's a super foggy day in the spring, which we don't get as much, you could get some influence from the coast, but generally when the coast is cold and foggy, Ukiah isn't. You could be 90 in Ukiah and 67 in Fort Bragg. So yeah,
um
temperatures will be nice. You're not going to have to do what you do for low gap, where you wear your ski gloves to be able to ride in that valley. That
Oh my
section,
God, it was so cold.
it's
I was
miserable.
gonna die.
I know I've told people and they think I'm crazy, but when I do that riding it, I ride a camelback with no water in it so I could have ski gloves and like a full mask
Yeah,
for
that's a
that
good
section,
idea.
because I hate when I have numb fingers for like a half hour, 45 minutes, and you're just waiting for them to get warm again. So I'm just like, screw it. I just bring these layers and I just stick them in there the rest of the day, because I've had a couple of rides where I'm just like almost on the other side of the road crying because of the cold temperatures in that Montgomery Woods area.
I
It's
was not ready for that cold. I think it was 30 degrees at the start.
was it? Oh yeah,
I'm
that's
pretty sure. Yeah, it was really cold.
and so this is our finale too. I mean, the one thing, maybe you looked at the calendar. So we're usually doing 5 events in a year, and this year we're doing 4, just to kind of shrink them down a little bit and keep the excitement for people. We had a lot of people participating for the overall series, especially in the age groups, and we had in the pro men, Brendan Wirtz won by 1 point in the final
Hmm.
one. In the age groups, there was one that was a tie, and the person that finished better, we had him within a couple points after 6 months of racing through the winter. So that's really exciting to have. It's always the Hoppers sort of started like, hey, let's create this fun, competitive in a fun way series that'll get us through the winter, each month, and like you're measuring your fitness against your buddies. So we really saw that this year, and I think by starting in January and ending in May, we're going to kind of keep that going. And then we slotted in a new event, which is a mountain bike enduro, which is really cross country oriented enduro. So it's also kind of an event where you don't need an enduro bike if you're a mountain biker, cross country racer. It's going to be a great course for you if you're
Hmm.
expecting big hits like Downeyville and North Star. It's not quite there, but that's when we could talk about that another time when we get there in the spring. But I think that's going to be a fun ad. I've always liked the idea of doing segments. The logistics in my events have been really complicated, and also for me as a rider, I did a couple enduros, and it's really how I would want to race, where it's timed going downhill. Whereas some of the events that are segments, what I like about competing and racing is that you make your effort and then you're with your peer group, and that's how it sorts out throughout the whole day. When it's a time segment, that happens multiple times, and you could have getting stuck behind people. So for me, is I get why that's fun, but for me as a rider, this mountain bike one can just be super fun all day, riding, rolling, climbing, camping, and then each time at your segment, you get to try and stick it to your buddy. So we
So
hope
so wait, so all the time segments are downhill segments?
yeah. So all the time segments are downhill for the mountain one. So it's basically take this really, really hard cross country mountain bike race, which is like 24 miles and like
Oh,
4,000 feet of climbing. And you end up getting, I think, 13 miles and 3,200 feet of descending. So there's some climbing in the descents just to make them long enough. But like that's the only thing that counts towards your overall. So you
uh,
regroup with your friends. You can regroup with different age groups. You start with your age group, and then afterwards you wait for whomever. You start whenever you want, and you should
you
come up for
know,
that. I know you're a mountain biker.
I am, but you know what's messed up? I'm a way better climber than descender on the mountain
Oh,
bike.
okay, so
I was like, wait, all the segments are
sorry,
downhill. Damn it!
this is an anti-Vic event. Then sorry, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay, but it's not my strong suit on the mountain. On the road bike, it's like my thing. I'm like,
Uh,
I'm a killer. But on the mountain bike, I don't know why. I'm not the fastest going down. I don't know why. Oh
um,
well.
Now, someone asked on our Facebook group about how you've gone about uh, being able to have these events on private land, and getting those relationships? Because I know you also have that with USOL as well. But like how, how have you been, have they approached you or you approached them, or, how does this work out?
Trade
Um,
secrets.
well, they're each one's different, and it's really a matter of, I mean, developing the relationships. I could speak to myself and other folks like up in Humboldt with the folks with the mountain bike club. They work with Blue Diamond up there. But so for me, for the Redwood Forest Foundation, they approached me through a friend up in Mendocino who had done some events. They part of their mission for their nonprofit is public access, and it's so far out there. And they thought of the idea of having an event, so they reached out to me, and I knew that area, and so that was super exciting for me. It's as times moved on for me, it's kind of been a community, not community service. Obviously, this is an event and a business now, but it's always been about connecting to the community where I have the local clubs supporting it, and it was my high school team before. So when I had a chance to connect with Redwood Forest Foundation and know the folks who are working up there and what they're doing, it's kind of a little bit of adds a layer to what the events are all about. As far as the Mendocino Redwood Company, that's a little bit different. They're a for-profit timber company. They're not actively looking to bring people onto their land, though they're also a local company that employs a lot of folks, and they know people like to use their land, so they have had get the possibility for people that live there to have leases to use the land. And Mendocino Redwood Company is where our cycling club out of Occidental has had a lease with a 3,000 acre piece of their land, and so the asset manager for their land is the same person. So I just reached out and said, "Would you consider that?" And it's just been a lot of talking and communication, and last year went well, so he was willing to let us do it again this year. And they say this is what it's going to cost, and so we budget to make that work, and what the rules are, and the waivers, and getting people to really honor not going in and riding the land. That's a big part of it. I think that folks that ask that are interested, I think things are shifting in the sense of where it's private land, never go there. So it's really worth reaching out to the landowners and trying to create those relationships with access. And I think gravel bikes has especially multiplied the opportunities, because for a lot of places, like, hey, can we go there and build trails, which that's a much bigger thing than can we use your roads to ride. And I know some of the timber companies and other areas as well, that they've found ways to do that. So that's kind of how those two have come to be. And it's actually easier than working like with state parks. I've tried to have things with state parks and then with CAL FIRE and public agencies. It's possible, it's written in there to do that, but sometimes that's more restrictive and more complicated than to actually work with private property. So that's a long answer to that.
Yeah, we don't have that problem here because we don't have a lot of private land. It's either state or, national forest, and probably like once you get up to like the Santa Barbara area and above, that's when you start getting into some of the private land and dealing with the wineries. But yeah, it's definitely it's a different animal out here. That's just a line that we just never really bother to try crossing.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I've been a little envious with, in the last 15 years, all the events that have popped up in these amazing places that have either all their county roads, it's all gravel in the Midwest and Texas, and or they have these massive national forests to work with and to ride those roads. And so we've had to be creative. I mean, moving to low cap for me, that was because we did Old Cazadero for 20 years, and without problems. And even though it had the creek, and the county, the new person in charge of the roads, it just came across his desk and say, that road's closed. No further discussion. Not like well, it's always been closed, but it's a county road that there's no longer a bridge. What steps could we take to provide safety for riders and for the community to do this? It was just like, it's closed. So low gap was one. I mean, being the map person, that's was studying the maps, is like not just knowing the area, but like, okay, where are there county roads? Where could we get through? Sherwood's another one. If you've ridden that one, that's like, I have in my head, like, what are the roads that are actual public roads that we have access to? Usol's one of them as well. That's actually a county road. So anyways, yeah. But but the greater the challenge, once we pull it off, the greater sense of satisfaction. And I've got a good team helping me with this. I'm not doing it all on my own anymore. So thank goodness I have Austin McInerney help me, and my buddy Ian, and not just help me actually do stuff, but when I like just have to bite my tongue on a call, and then we can chat over and come up with a plan and see if we can make something work.
And then I would imagine once you have a conquest, it sets a precedent for the next time, where you can, have like a resume, so to speak. Say, hey, look, we did it here, and
yeah, I hope so. Then it goes well. We're not just going in to exploit resources and make a whole bunch of money off of somebody. It's to put on a good event for the community. And now that Ukiah, the city, is on board, and we're looking to put butts in beds and have people come and dig in there, and they see the value of this type of tourism and recreation, and then MRC's there, so that's fun for me. That sort of partnership for me is really kind of as fulfilling as just creating a good ride for the riders at this time. Just all those extra pieces, and especially now that I'm not teaching anymore, there's like my brain of like making all those connections. So it's given something of my planning brain a chance to, well, now actually have some bandwidth and some time to do it. Be able to take some calls during the middle part of the day. My wife still looks at me. She's like, I have no idea how we did this. I said, I don't either.
Yeah, I definitely, anyone that puts just one event, let alone all the events you do put on during a year, in the middle of everything, like nobody understands the scope of all these things. It's not like you just, like our little send it rides that we have a map, and there's still like, for just people to meet up for a little small local ride, it's a little bit of work always. So just to imagine, group of that size and wanting to make sure everyone gets home safe, and then the contingency plans and all the things that come up. I should stop. I'm going to talk you out of doing this, right?
No, I'm all in. I'm all in, man. I love it. This is going to be 27 years. And of course it's not the same thing it was back in the day when we handed out little laminates and just said go and no course markings or nothing. And, sometimes I wax nostalgic, but things change, and it's like, those are great memories, and we're creating new great memories right now. And so I'm just thankful for the chance to be able to do that with the people, and try and
what you've created now is a legacy.
Well, I just want to say, well, on top of that, just whether it's, all these young racers who've gone on to pro careers, and just kind of like showing them the side of this, or just to, people on the weekend that have been looking like, hey, I've got something I want to train for. It gives me a reason to get into cycling, get into gravel or something like, it probably comes to you all angles that, like, when people finish a ride and, the variety of people that have shown up, that, you've brought a lot of smiles to a lot of people and really shown people their way.
Well, I hope so. And I think you reminded me of something that, that I'm proud of, and I've really stuck to, is that the accessibility isn't just about how difficult a ride is, but it's also been trying to do these events where, you travel, it's going to be a big deal coming from SoCal and other folks, but 90% of the people, if they want to, can come Saturday morning and go home Saturday evening. So it's not a huge commitment financially, and then also time away from their family or what they're doing in kids soccer. And so it kind of speaks to the way I've always seen sport, where, you know, as an athlete, it's like the most important thing in the world. At the same time, it's not important at all in the world. And
That's a great point.
those two things that we're balancing, you know, it's those contradictions within ourselves that are both true at
Yes.
different points, right? So to be able to you know, have events that people can either make it all about their season goal, and they have their coaches and they're putting in 30 hours a week, that's great. Or you're coming out to your first gravel ride with your friends, and you're just doing it, and then you're going home after getting tacos, and to be able to do both of those things is cool. And yeah, like you mentioned, the kids, you know, I'm hoping to get Luke Lamperti out again. You know, he was first out here when he was like 10, and if to have him out here at Low Gap on his quick step kick, man, that would be cool.
Oh,
Wow. Hell
You
yeah.
listening, Luke? You listening, Luke? You coming?
yeah.
Hell yeah.
You know,
Well,
and yeah, I don't know. It's just a cool thing. Oh,
Nehemiah.
Nehemiah's there. You know, and Nehemiah, what he did with his gift of gravel was freaking rad. And with the high school, the ladies, the youth girls coming on out with the mentorship program. So just to have these events where if someone comes to me, hey, I've got this idea, what do you think about doing this with a group? And I'm just like, if it's a good idea, I'm sure, let's do it. If it brings people joy to gather and get on two wheels and come on out, then let's find a way to make it happen. You know, I guess that's why I'm glad it's not just once a year. You know, when I'm already when I'm stressing out for Low Gap, I'm like I got 1 foot into Huffmaster. When people were getting snowed in that night, I'm already thinking, okay, Sherwood. Like, I'm kind of playing through to my next hole. I'm already, you know, I have a chance of like a birdie or a double bogey, but I'm already maybe I'm still focused. That's not I'm focusing on my shot, but it's like those next things. I get more chances, I guess I get to say, to keep doing different things. And
yeah. Aaron here said his first event was Huffmaster this year, and it looks like
is it his last? Is it his last?
I'm out. I can't do this anymore.
Oh my God.
There's no sad face emoji, so you know, hopefully it's a high point. Well,
you know, it's crazy. Huffmaster is a good example with cycling and with events. Like, there were some folks that had that mud, walk up and walk down. They're like, that was the funnest, crazy I've ever had. And there's some people, they're like, I will never do that again. That's the worst day I've ever had on a bike. And it's like, physically, like, where they went and what they did was the same, but the experience isn't the same.
Yep.
And we kind of, that may be us on different days, or it might be, that's like with the hoppers. Like, they're not for everybody. I mean, I'll just be honest, you know, but I want everyone who comes to feel supported and feel like they can succeed and have a good time. I don't want 2,000 people out at the hoppers, because then you're going to have 800 who aren't going to finish. You know, I want it to be vetted to the sense of, like, you're at your zone of proximal development in the academic pedagogy, where you just can go a little bit beyond it. You know what I mean? You know, if I signed up for the Ironman or whatever in Kona, I'd freaking drown. Like, I wouldn't want to start there. They'd be pushing me in a wheelbarrow on the running race. I can't run. But, like, we just try and get them, you know, just at that limit, you know. So I do it in a nice way now. I used to do it in a mean way to my friends, but now I got to be nice, because people are, you know.
You're gonna run out of friends.
We still do that. You know how we do that with our buddies. You know, that's what's fun when you're not organizing a ride, because you're like, you know.
Yeah. None of that happens to me and Vic. We just know who's a better rider, so we're all good.
Right.
Anyways,
right.
Well, Mig, thanks for coming on. Look forward to next year. You know, rest up between now and then. Don't go over crazy and cleaning up the backyard here, because we're gonna need all of you.
Don't build any more barns.
The barns.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't stop. You know, resting for me, I rest through my first cup of coffee, and then I put it down, and then I'm out working. So I rest through a cup of coffee. Does that count?
Okay, I'll give you that. Why not?
I don't know. Yeah, and I hope to come down and see you guys soon. And I always appreciate you guys having me on your show. I know I end up talking. I always think I don't want to talk about bikes, and then you start talking about bikes, and I don't want to shut up.
Hey, I could talk about bikes all day, every day.
Hey, every week we're here.
Yes, sir.
Well, you guys are doing a great job. I love seeing the look of the new look of your YouTube and just the content that you're doing. And you're kind of taking the lead on finding just really cool, fun places to go ride. And I think people are really looking to you guys in terms of like showcasing some of the best. And there's a lot in California. You could never leave California and still not see it all.
Totally.
Yeah.
We just barely scratched the surface.
Yeah.
No. To me, it's a community, without the community and stuff like this, because, as a parent, I don't get a chance to go out much, but like to have like connections with people all across the state. I don't understand. I couldn't come up with any other circumstance where this would happen. And I love California, and being able to ride a gravel bike and doing these events gives me an opportunity to multitask. So
yeah,
it's it's been an incredible gift to me, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Well, you guys make a good team.
Thanks, man.
All right, Mig. Well, thanks for coming on. You're always welcome anytime. All right.
All right. Well, you still haven't even asked me about my bamboo yet. We'll talk. Can we talk about plants sometime? That's a separate episode.
Give us a minute.
We'll talk about barns. We'll talk about barns and plants. No, that'll be a different side channel. People will unsubscribe from you.
Yeah. Like, what?
You'll lose the followers. We'll bait them in with an old bike, and then we'll talk about barns now.
Chicken barns. There you go.
All right, guys. Nice chatting.
All right. Take care.
Bye.